NBA Fantasy Start/Sit Guide for Week 12. RotoWire highlights the best players to start at each position heading into Week 12 of fantasy basketball. We're set for the first full week of the new calendar year, and it brings a robust schedule featuring one 5-game team and an abundance of 4-game teams as well. That's a very desirable setup for fantasy purposes, and in Week 12, we have no shortage of appealing options with modest start/roster rates to consider. Each week we'll aim to highlight a pair of start candidates for your fantasy rosters who may shape up as some of the tougher calls to make, focusing on players with a start or roster rate of 50% or less in Yahoo leagues. Likewise, we'll spotlight one sit candidate at each position who would normally not be a consideration for a spot on your bench, often focusing on players with fewer game opportunities during the coming week. Team with 5 games, Phoenix Suns. Teams with 4 games, Brooklyn Nets, Charlotte Hornets, Chicago Bulls, Dallas Mavericks, Denver Nuggets, Detroit Pistons, Indiana Pacers, Miami Heat, Milwaukee Bucks, Minnesota Timberwolves, New Orleans Pelicans, New York Knicks, Orlando Magic, Philadelphia 76ers, Portland Trail Blazers, Toronto Raptors, Utah Jazz, Washington Wizards. Teams with 3 games, Atlanta Hawks, Boston Celtics, Cleveland Cavaliers, Golden State Warriors, Houston Rockets, Los Angeles Clippers, Los Angeles Lakers, Memphis Grizzlies, Oklahoma City Thunder, Sacramento Kings, San Antonio Spurs. Without further ado, let's examine some of the tougher start/sit decisions for Week 12. Guards. Start, Keon Johnson, Nets. 13% start rate. Cam Thomas has suffered another setback with his troublesome hamstring, as the talented wing is slated to be sidelined for at least the next 2 weeks after only playing 2 games following an extended absence. His misfortune equates to continued opportunity for Johnson, who's averaging a solid 12.0 points, 4.5 rebounds, 1.9 assists and 1.0 steals across 27.7 minutes over his last 11 games. The fourth-year pro has been heating up of late thanks to some slight improvement in his shooting, as he's putting up 15.3 points, 4.9 rebounds, 2.4 assists and 1.3 steals in his last 7, scoring in double digits in 6 of those games. With new backcourt mate D'Angelo Russell also questionable to start the week due to a shin injury, and Cameron Johnson slated to miss at least 3 of the Nets' 4-week 12 games with an ankle sprain, there should be plenty of extra opportunity for Johnson. Start, Spencer Dinwiddie, Mavericks. 18% roster rate. Speaking of usage boosts, Dinwiddie is slated to continue operating as the Mavericks' primary ball handler over the next several weeks while Luka Doncic completes his recovery from a calf strain. The veteran point guard has been up and down in his first-unit role so far during Doncic's 4-game and-counting absence, scoring 17 and 30 points in his first 2 starts before tumbling to 8 and 2 points in the following 2 games. That volatility is concerning to a point, but Dinwiddie also has a proven body of work and has scored in double digits in 15 of 33 games despite coming off the bench in 11 of those instances. With 4 games to work with and Kyrie Irving also absent to start the week on Monday due to an illness, Dinwiddie should have no shortage of opportunities to deliver solid production. Also consider Quentin Grimes, Mavericks, 23% roster rate, Grady Dick, Raptors, 43% roster rate. Sit, Desmond Bane, Grizzlies. 85% start rate. Bane will open the Grizzlies' 3-game week already seemingly in line to miss at least 1 game, as he's listed as doubtful for Monday's contest against the Mavericks due to an ankle injury he picked up Friday night against the Warriors. There are certainly no qualms with Bane's recent production otherwise, and he'd be in a good position to benefit from Ja Morant's shoulder ongoing absence were he healthy. However, even if he's able to make it back for the final 2 games of the week, he'll have unenviable defensive matchups against the Rockets and Timberwolves. Forwards. Start, Jalen Wilson, Nets. 2% roster rate. As alluded to in Johnson's entry above, the Nets have plenty of opportunities for second-tier players available at the moment due to injuries in the starting 5. Wilson has already been operating as the starting power forward for the last 2 games and has scored in double digits in 5 straight games overall, a span in which he's averaging 12.2 points, 2.4 rebounds, and 1.0 assists while shooting 42.9% from behind the arc. He'll now open the week Monday against the Pacers with at least 2 fellow first-unit members absent from multiple games, which should increase the odds of the promising 2023 second-round pick extending his stretch of solid production. Start: Jamie Jaquez Jr., Heat. 13% roster rate. The Jimmy Butler saga in Miami is in full swing, and it's all but certain the veteran star has played his last game for the Heat. At minimum, Butler won't be available at all during the team's Week 12 4-game slate due to a suspension, which tees up Jaquez Jr. for what could be a starting role at small forward. The second-year pro didn't start against the Jazz in the first game of Butler's suspension Saturday, but he did offer 13 points, 4 assists, 2 rebounds and 1 steal in 34 minutes off the bench. Jaquez Jr. has averaged 12.8 points, 6.0 rebounds, 2.0 assists and 2.8 steals across 27.8 minutes per game in 4 starts this season, but he showed even greater promise last season as a rookie when running with the first unit, 15.0 points, 4.4 rebounds, 2.8 assists and 1.1 steals on 48.1% shooting in 25 games, and should offer you a safe floor across multiple categories, given the circumstances. Also consider Toumani Camara, Trail Blazers, 17% roster rate, Ryan Dunn, Suns, 9% roster rate. Sit: Jeremy Grant, Trail Blazers, 77% roster rate. There's no reason to remove this designation from Grant this week, despite the fact the Blazers are on a 4-game schedule. The veteran forward is already ruled out for Monday's contest against the Pistons, which will mark his 4th straight absence. There's certainly a chance there's more of those in store, and as detailed last week, Grant already checks in averaging a full 6 points per game fewer than last season, 15.0 ppg, down from 21.0, while posting his worst shooting percentage, 38.2, since his rookie 2014-15 campaign in Philadelphia. Considering the factors working against him, it's prudent to leave him on the bench for another week. Centers. Start: Alexander Sarr, Wizards. 30% start rate. Sarr is starting to round into form nicely as his rookie season nears its halfway point, entering Week 12 with 12 straight double-digit scoring efforts and averages of 14.3 points, 7.1 rebounds, 2.7 assists and 1.3 blocks across 28.1 minutes per contest in that span. The second overall pick has also been red-hot from the field during the sample, shooting 48.1% overall, including a stellar 44.4% from three-point range, 4.5 attempts per game. As that snapshot indicates, Sarr is able to contribute across the stat sheet and makes for a very viable option on a 4-game week. Start: Mason Plumlee, Suns. 6% roster rate. Plumlee just completed a 3-game run with the Suns starting 5 while Jusuf Nurkic served a suspension, and the former has now been named the starter for the time being as part of a shakeup of Phoenix's first unit. The Suns have 5 games upcoming next week as well, which only enhances Plumlee's appeal. There's admittedly some disappointment in the fact the veteran averaged a modest 6.0 points during that trio of contests, but he did offset the unremarkable offensive contributions with 7.3 rebounds, 3.3 assists and 1.3 blocks across 24.3 minutes per game. Additionally, with Bradley Beal also demoted to the second unit as part of the makeover of the starting 5, Plumlee could benefit from part of the ripple effect of that move in the form of an uptick in offensive opportunities. Also consider Gershon Yabusele, 76ers, 12% roster rate, Andre Drummond, 76ers, 11% roster rate. Sit: Clint Capella, Hawks. 80% roster rate. Capella is still offering occasional glimpses of his talent in the paint, but those instances are becoming a bit more few and far between. The big man has scored in double digits just thrice in the last 18 games, and he's posted double-digit rebounds only once in the last 10 contests. While he's still very capable of offering above-average production on the glass, it's worth noting another previous mainstay of his statistical profile, blocks, are considerably down this season, 0.9 per game, his lowest average since his rookie 2014-15 campaign. With 3 games to work with and relatively replaceable numbers, it's worth considering a similarly talented 3 or 4 game option over Capella this week.